This is Sunday, the 27th of January, 2025, and it's time for the uh, town hall, the monthly town hall, which we do on the last Sunday of every month. But I have to apologize, friends. We're going to hear three quarters of it, but I forgot to turn on the recorder for the first half hour. So we had a good conversation, but you're not going to hear it because I didn't record it. So now let's go right into what is left of it. And I'm very, very, very sorry. It was just entirely my fault.
Back on the topic Peter was raising, I think the insurance question is vital. I was very concerned to hear that insurance companies were canceling homeowner policies in Los Angeles while the fires were burning. That there's actually 1 in 7 houses in Pacific Palisades that were uninsured because of canceled insurance policies. Mm-hmm. Now, California has a program called FAIR that had $200 million in it, but already I think there's more than $20 billion in claims on that California state FAIR insurance policy.
Right.
So it could easily drive California bankrupt.
Yes, the California Fair Plan, I'm being told they're just about bankrupt. And that's what I'm under. That was the only insurance that I could get.
Yep. Exactly. So Maryland's at ground zero on this. And imagine how many people in Los Angeles, I mean, the fires are still burning and they've been canceling homeowner policies while the fires are raging. I mean, that's how bad it is.
That's right. That's right. And now they're also doing excuses. Now I'm hearing things like people are filing to say they need to collect or whatever. And if their home is a trust, but their insurance is with their own personal name, then they're being refused. I mean, there any excuse that they can make. It's terrible. It's a disaster.
Sounds terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the general outcome? Does that mean that most of the people whose houses have been damaged or burnt will not get any compensation?
I think for policies that have burned and they've been valid, there'll be compensation. But the quality of the insurance company, it's all about how much they argue about it in court. There are 1 or 2 statutes at the federal level which are probably going to be further eroded. But presently, if your house is completely burned and is a total loss, and there's a federal law that says they've got to supply you with funds within 4 months in order to pay for a hotel, pay for food, things that to stay alive. And there's like a quarter, a third, some fraction of the disbursement has to be done in a very timely way according to the federal law. But these protections are being eroded at the federal level and with the present administration. So it's a major concern about continuing a safety net for most Americans. This is a big issue, and it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Well, what's the solution?
I think we need to decentralize a lot of the power in our governance. This is a problem from government to academia, as we discussed previously. And if we move towards consent circle frameworks instead of top-down hierarchy, dog-eat-dog governments, I think there's a possibility of improving the way humans make decisions together.
That's not a short-term solution.
No.
That is a very ambitious. I don't even know what I mean. You're just giving me a label to something that I'm sure you'd need to spend hours to explain, but whatever it is, it doesn't look like something you can do tomorrow night.
No, we have to start with our own organizations, our own companies, and we need to demonstrate, as has been demonstrated several times, that these result in higher quality decisions being made. And then we have to move that up through our governance programs, through our organizations and institutions and even government.
I think it would be really valuable to have the California Insurance Commissioner, or whatever his title is, on the call, because you can imagine what he's going through.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are 3 things. Some of them have been initiatives in the past. For example, There's proportional representation, which is passed in several states already, and the city of San Francisco. There's several efforts and opportunities to reduce the regulatory capture of government by large organizations. I mean, the large industry, including oil industry and others, pay huge sums of money to the Democrats and the Republicans, so that regardless who wins, they can still delay and prevaricate the climate solutions we're going to need in our time. And so that is how regulatory capture works from the U.S. to other countries around the world. And those are the problems we need to solve: is reduce regulatory capture.
This sounds wonderful, but I have no idea what it really amounts to. But we have a newcomer, thank goodness, Moji Agha, who was here last time or the time before. Come in, Moji.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and regarding the fires, I heard, I don't know whether it's a rumor or not, that the insurance companies are saying that it is we shouldn't pay. We can we're the policy is not applicable because it is the wind, not the fire, that is causing the damage. And I said, oh my God, look at the level of corruption, moral corruption, to say, oh, because it is the wind that is spreading the fire, we insured against fire damage. But in this case, it's the wind that is causing it. But anyhow, I don't know whether this is real, but I've heard it at least twice in various places on the.
I think that is such a silly argument that I can't believe anybody take it serious.
Well, I mean, we have a person called Trump in the White House, so don't think about the silliness is not exactly a standard that. But what I wanted to say about Brian, and in order to have those longer term governance solutions, we need to have civil society pressure. And civil society pressure needs to be organized, systemically. Hence, you may have heard what I have suggested, the Chambers of Compassion, which is endorsed by Noam Chomsky and others.
And is there any parallel? I mean, I'm sure you
parallel?
guys have not talked about your respective proposals, but I wouldn't have thought they have any connection with each other.
No. What I'm saying is that any kind of a governance reform solutions need to be pushed by nonviolent pressure at the grassroots. Hence the organizing the civil society.
Yeah, that's true.
And for that we need companies have figured out long time ago a place called the Chamber of Commerce, which is called the same thing everywhere. But we, as civil society actors, do not have chambers of compassion that is called the same thing everywhere. And we need to have that so that the work of climate change activists, which, by the way, it absolutely disgusts me that we need to, and you guys were talking in the part of the session that wasn't recorded about how to get funding for absolutely vital research for survival. So it is disgusting that that you guys have to, and I as an ally, we have to think about, how do we raise the money in order to pay for the research on which the survival of the planet is dependent. So anyhow,
We just get to Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, and we say, now you own the U.S. government, and so you own most of the money in the world, so you just fork it over.
well, I mean, Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia had, the guy that chopped up the reporter, New York Times reporter. He had the idea of he essentially took hostage a lot of those crown prince, really rich people. He held them hostage in a luxury hotel, and he said, "I'm not going to let you out unless if you fork over a lot of money." So he got a bunch of funding. So this is something that we perhaps could do with some of the gazillionaires that
Except
you
that it's
referred.
the gazillionaires who are getting the money.
Right.
Trump announced, what is 100 billion or gazillion dollars to support AI in their
Oh
current
God.
new drive to take over the universe.
Yeah.
Which,
So anyhow,
we haven't talked much about that, what we think of that. And I think this is the most interesting and controversial and threatening, as well as promising thing going on in the world right now, is what the hell to make of that, of these, innovations that I just got up early this morning to listen to a conversation that the International Pugwash and the the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War hosted about the relationship between nuclear weapons and artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of talk about making the nuclear weapons controlled by AI, and everybody, of course, on this conversation was totally opposed to that idea. And Jeffrey Hinton gave a terrific talk about it. I'm thinking of maybe getting part of that video and posting it on our site or something to get people to talking about the real possibility of the relationship between, weapons and these new interventions.
well,
Speaking of
Israelis did a lot of research on, and they use AI to target, places in Gaza, and they're saying that we have done weapons live, in like live war weapons research using AI. So there is money going into that. So anyhow, it's in case if you could, and I saw Brian was giving me thumbs up regarding the Chambers of Compassion. I really think we need to pay systemic attention to
Go
creating.
ahead, explain your chambers of compassion.
Oh,
We're all
okay.
ears. Why not? Let's-
Okay. Well, Brian has his hand up, so I feel guilty.
Thank you. Thank you, Moji. I think you're spot on with Chambers of Compassion and the need for civil society. There is an excellent film out that I've just seen called Join or Die. This movie, Join or Die, talks about the 200-year history of the foundations of democracy in the United States and Italy and other countries. And it is the civic society, those volunteer organizations, that really form the foundation of democracy in these countries. And he demonstrates that the survival rate of people in these districts from Italy to the United States and elsewhere is directly related to their level of civic society, as demonstrated by the number of organizations they belong to, like this one. And so this movie, and we had a chance to speak with the filmmaker just in the last 2 weeks, is profound because it documents how over the past 100 years, Americans have quit their civic organizations. They've quit their churches. They've quit the Rotary Club. They've quit these other organizations. And so now, in the last 40 years of what I'll call neoliberalism, we're living what is fundamentally this individualist world where most people are not joining the civic society, and yet it's the civic society that has demonstrated to increase survival rates and improve the functioning of our democracies from the bottom up. So this is a great movie, Join or Die. I'll see if I can send you the link.
There's
And,
in the current issue of Atlantic Magazine, I think the cover story is about what they call being alone. That you're mentioning withdrawing from various kind of organizations, but this thing points out that people are withdrawing from all kinds of contact with each other. That they and it's because of originally the TV and now the cell phone. People
and the pandemic. The
But-
pandemic didn't help either.
but it's continued. The trend apparently has continued of people spending more and more time alone since even the end of well, if we're even past the end of the pandemic, which I guess could be questioned. But he's saying that the trend continues. But now his definition of being alone is not one that I would share, because I don't think I'm alone now. I'm with you guys, and it's absolutely as real and as important to me as if you were right here, sitting right here beside me. It makes no difference. The only difference is I can't hug you, and so I
You
miss
are an
that.
unusual person.
Wow. We're sending you virtual hugs, Meta, and furthermore, you're right. But I think we're the minority, and what we need to do is identify how do we grow in a viral way this idea of building circles together like this one that can build consent towards improved governance and civic society. This is how we measure civilization, is through civic organizations like this one. And I'm going to second Moji's chambers of compassion. I think we need those desperately.
Oh, thank you. If you could, and all of you, if you could raise the profile of this solution that I've been putting, years of research, I mean, theoretical as well as applied, into.
I'll tell you what you can do, because we would need to read some stuff. You should go to our website.
I already sent it in the chat.
The chat doesn't reach many people. We have a website where we're supposed to be available to everybody in the world, but not enough people go look at it because there's not enough people posting things there. If there were things there, people would go look. So you go there to our website, to savetheworld.ca, and we have a page for every issue. Now, I would think that what you want to post is on the page called Civil Society. We have a whole page for comments about civil society. So go to the main homepage and look for the page on civil society, the comments column, and please paste in there all the articles and information that you can, so that, because we can't talk about it enough here to get us really informed. And I mean, I want you to go on in a minute, but I've got to call on Marilyn first, because Marilyn is wanting to speak. But at any rate, put it there. And also anybody else who has something worth sharing. I don't think you can post videos there, but you can post any written articles, or you can write your own, and you can attach photos to it. Okay? Then we will I'll ask all of you to go look at it as soon as Moji's put something up there. And
Well, I have put it in the chat, a link to the step-by-step procedures page of it.
Dear, the chat is not something the public will ever see.
I know, I'm talking about the folks, the wonderful folks that have gathered here. They can look at it.
But this video is going to thousands of people. Thousands of people will see it. And
Okay.
they can't see the chat. But if you go to our website, they can go there and see what you want to post.
Okay.
Do it there.
Very good. And I'm just add Meta that Join or Die is available on Netflix, and I've added the link here in the chat as well.
Okay. Again, the chat is something nice for us, but it will not reach out.
Can
It's
you
on
put
Netflix.
can you put the link to the website
To savetheworld.ca.
to savetheworld.ca? Okay, thank you.
And that is our homepage. And then you will see there's a menu bar and you can choose. You can just look around, you'll find your way. Okay. Okay, but I'll come back to you and let you talk a little bit more about Chambers of Compassion, but Marilyn has something to say.
Well,
I'm sorry, I have to go to another Zoom. In this case, about Gaza.
Okay.
I'm so
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. All right. Take
Okay,
care.
bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye y'all.
Marilyn.
all I wanted to ask, thank you. All I wanted to ask is, what do we do now? Is it too late? You know, I mean, we're meeting, we're doing what we aren't doing, which is great and wonderful, and putting things together in the article, but what sort of proactive actions can we do now? Is it going to be too late for these other things? That's all. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big question, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, is it too late to? I mean, I say Brian's bubble idea. I think, to me, that's the most promising thing. Maybe because I don't know whether it'll work, but it doesn't sound that hard to lay down a whole bunch of garden hoses in the bottom of the ocean and pump air through it. That should be a fairly easy thing to do compared to, I mean, there are other people talking about putting a curtain, you know, 100-mile long stretch of curtain, like from ocean top to, I mean, or building berms at the bottom of the ocean with sediment that's going to hold things back. All kinds of extremely complicated engineering projects. But this thing of pumping, you know, get some garden hose and pump your air through there and see what happens. But that is already to save something that maybe is too late to save. I mean, if the glacier is crumbling, and it is, you know, hundreds of square kilometers of ice has already broken off. What are you going to do now?
It's like a strip chart recorder, right? Mars is going to come out, and if we cool things off enough, the glacier is going to move, but it's going to pin itself again. Those islands are still there. If we cool things off enough, and it stays cold enough and doesn't break up, then the next tongue of the glacier can come down and repin itself. It may take a fair amount of effort to do so. We've got to start. Basically interrupting that supply of warm water that's coming in now that we've got a lot of ocean warming. And this is one framework to do so. And it's something that I think we need to try a variety of approaches. And cooling the surface ocean is really key as well. And that's something that HCA has been active with and we're figuring out. Beyond that, Join or Die, movie says join a club. Because when you join a club, you're building civic society. And whether it's this town hall or other clubs, we should encourage not only ourselves by example, but our friends, our neighbors, our family to get active, because this is going to actually build the kind of grassroots solidarity that will enable us to influence our representatives. Those are starts. We need to build grassroots advocacy that I think ultimately needs to be a new set of organizations that can actually, build the kind of solidarity that'll be needed to change the way our.
Do we have time for that, or is it too late?
I'm going to say yes and no. Climate disruption is going to get worse in the years ahead, but when things get bad enough, we have approaches, whether it's marine cloud brightening or deep sea bubbles, etc., that can be put in place in a matter of months, if not years, within an election cycle. So when things get bad enough, the emissions will take decades to reduce. The carbon removals will take decades to actually scale to gigatons. But several climate repair strategies have demonstrably had results in 6 months. For example, the International Maritime Organization set a ban on maritime aerosols on the back of ships. And that ban went into full effect in January 2023. Within 6 months, the North Sea was 5 degrees Celsius hotter than normal. And the Florida Keys hit 101 Fahrenheit. And my first coral reef died, the Sombrero Reef, that summer. So within 6 months, we saw the negative results of that negative geoengineering experiment. It was inadvertent, but it still had profound effects. Now, if we go the other way and we use benign sea spray aerosols on the back of ships, we could, in a matter of months, as soon as those regulations go into place, have re-brightened those ship tracks and re-brightened the marine cloud layer that keeps our oceans and our climate cool. And so this is something I've discussed with Peter in the past. We need to build the demand for this so that the mayor of Los Angeles could say, you know why Los Angeles is burning? It's because the IMO did this change. Do you know how many ships go from LA to China every year? It's amazing. Like dozens of ships go right through the Santa Barbara Channel, and it reduced the marine cloud brightening that was occurring. And the result was a failure of the rains last autumn, which is why we have the wildfires today. It is not mystery why there's these wildfires. It is the failure of the rains for the first time in decades in Los Angeles that caused these wildfires. So there's a strong causal link. As soon as the mayor of Los Angeles says every ship leaving the port has to have submicron sea spray on the back of it so they can brighten their tracks and in a benign way produce the kind of cloud condensation nuclei that are perfectly natural, that can re-brighten our planet to the level it was just 20 years ago, we can actually have a significant effect on our coastal communities and regions going inland hundreds of kilometers that can actually help us keep our climate cool while we're getting our carbon budget back in balance. That is the kind of grassroots that's local and regional and can be done today. And that's what we're advocating for.
Okay, now there's the first time I've heard anything about the wildfires being caused by that. I certainly have heard that the problem was that they passed this law outlawing bunker fuel or whatever for ships, and therefore there was less emission of stuff, aerosols, and therefore less cloud cover, and therefore greater warming. But nobody pointed out the connection to the fires. Now the question, how do you get some publicity on that? I don't know, but I'll tell you what we can do. We have a Substack place now. So this show is going to be not only on YouTube and on our website, but also on Substack. And for every show now, I write, not only do I post the video on Substack and all the others, but on Substack particularly and uniquely, not on the others, but on Substack, I post an essay of about 1,000 words of describing what we talk about in the show. So if Brian writes something about that, please explain that in greater detail and any kind of evidence that you can give me. And let's together, or you yourself, write an essay of 1,000 words about that issue and about the wildfires and the connection. And I'll post it tomorrow. I'll post it as soon as we do it.
It sounds promising. I think we should actually get a bunch of experts together and write a letter to the editor of the Los Angeles Times.
Go ahead, but let's do what I can do. I
That's
can
fine.
right now
We'll do both.
say, do this article, let's publish it, and it will go out to, we send an email from Substack to over 13,000 computers worldwide. Most people don't open it. Only something like 2,500 people actually open and read what we send them. But if we send out something titled something like the wildfires are caused by, the ship regulations or whatever you're arguing, that
Right.
title will capture some attention and probably get more people to read it. And that much.
Yes, well, just one more tidbit that's worth mentioning is that more than 90% of the marine aerosols in the Los Angeles basin area were caused by these ships. And so the marine aerosols, that when they cut them off, there was this huge effect. So it's no mystery why 18 months later it's lock and load on the fires, because LA is one of the greatest affected areas.
Has anybody published this? See, I haven't heard this before. Really?
It's analysis that we've done at the Climate Foundation over the past several months.
Okay, well, it's time now to put it out there, and you do it your way, and do it my way too. Okay.
Yeah,
Happy to do so.
it needs maximum publicity because you've got a mountain to climb, which is sort of the Prince of Evil, who's presently the president, and he loves to be able to blame people. I mean, he does blame people who are Democrats. So he's loving this whole business of being able to blame people, blame fire hydrants, blame anything that's looks like it might be democratic. So here you're proposing a solution that is sort of free, gluten free. It's something that's a positive suggestion that can be enacted. So he'd hate that. He wouldn't want it.
Well, it's a question of getting funding. It is unfunded, and so far these proposals have not been funded by ARIA, and they've not been funded by the Simons Foundation. And we need to actually keep plugging away at these proposals and try to get some funding.
Which proposals?
Proposals for rebrightening our planet. Go to rebrighten.org, which is one of our websites, and we need. And this Stephen Salter was one of the co-founders of our Rebrighten effort, and and website and group. We have a weekly group that meets on rebrightening our planet, and I invite all of you to join that. Just go to the rebrighten.org website, and I think we've got an opportunity to develop the technical solutions, the social acceptance, and the funding for rebrightening our planet on land and sea.
Okay. Well, I'm not ready to just join a club for the notion of. I think your proposal that everybody join a group and try to become more socially engaged is just too slow a procedure. But taking immediate action in terms of lobbying or something of that kind, political activity, is the only solution I know. One of the things that what came out of the conversation with Peter yesterday, I did like that interview you did at the in Cambridge last week, and I thought it was terrific. I'd like to share part of it somehow on our, I don't know how, but somehow. But one of the things that he asked you an interesting question: what can an individual do? And I liked the fact that you were frank and truthful about it. Basically said not much. You said the only thing I know of that where an individual's activity would make much of a difference is in not eating meat. Yeah. Now I eat meat, and I'm probably going to go on continuing eating meat, but I'm looking for the growth of this new industry where they have yeast and water and air, and they make protein out of it, which is probably within a year we'll find it on our grocery shelves or in the milk department of our grocery stores. And I'll probably start consuming that, but I don't eat these fake meat things. But I do. I thought it was interesting that you claim that really all these things about turn out the lights and ride a bicycle and the things that 10 years ago, that was the only thing we people were talking about. Let's conserve what we have by just consuming less. And I have friends who still make that their modality. I have one dear friend in particular who, goes around in her country, which I will not name. It's not the U.S. or Canada, and tries to get people to do things like repair things rather than throw away broken appliances. And okay, that's fine, but don't kid yourself. That's not going to make any difference. But it probably eating less meat might make a difference. But apart from that, your real answer was get engaged and make political actions, demand, structural and institutional changes and technological developments and that kind of thing.
Good animals in there, the boxes and things. So.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Lines, Meta. I'd like to embrace all of those suggestions that Peter's made and add to them, and along the lines of these political changes, the Rebrighten solutions, including the submicron sea spray and even biogenic aerosols with marine permaculture, these are local and regional solutions. And so by getting active with the ports that are nearby you, with the folks that can make a decision about regulations leaving or entering port, these are local and regional solutions that we can put in place with a lot more activism and a lot faster than you can make a global change. So if we start insisting on, submicron sea spray on the back of every ship that leaves Los Angeles, that's going to change things. Mm-hmm. And so let's start locally and regionally. And by the way, by definition, these interventions are not geoengineering because they're not large scale or global. They're local. And yet we can do local things that are going to have a bigger and bigger impact as we go. And we'll be able to evaluate those impacts as we go. So I think there is more we can do.
Give another example, because now that's very interesting that you claim that this local sea spray from the LA harbor, San Pedro, is that where their harbor is?
San Pedro and several others, including Long Beach.
That is a local and not a geoengineering thing. Okay, I will use that kind of terminology. It had occurred to me that it's a local thing or that it's not geoengineering. But what else? What other examples can you give that you could make that kind of claim for, that it's local?
I would say marine cloud brightening in general can be done locally and regionally. And there are many places that rely upon marine clouds to stay cool. I know for a fact here in Australia, our temperatures are 20 degrees Fahrenheit cooler on the days we have marine clouds than the days we don't have marine clouds. Now, NASA has just come out with amazing data showing for the last 4 decades, the satellites have observed a reduction in marine clouds, particularly in these temperate and subtropical latitudes, that have profound effects on the warming in our regions, especially even going hundreds of kilometers in from shore. So there's an opportunity to do this kind of, just to recognize that, yes, we have lost many of our marine clouds. That's resulting in ever more ocean warming and ever more coastal warming. And we can turn it around by rebrightening our marine clouds and increasing our cloud fraction. So the data's out there. NASA's just published it in the last 12 months. And it shows that we've got a problem, and actually we know how to fix it. And that is with submicron sea spray. And it turns out algae produces natural biogenic cloud condensation nuclei that can have a profound effect on marine clouds. It's already been demonstrated for terrestrial forests. It's known to be a mechanism in marine algae, microalgae. And it turns out kelp forests are prolific producers of cloud condensation nuclei as well. So putting out hectares of marine permaculture kelp forest will do a lot to repair the local climate.
Well, I've heard of it in connection with the notion of iron, spraying iron around and feeding your phytoplankton, which would produce the stuff that would also have cloud effects. Is that related or different?
Yeah, we've been prevaricating on iron since the 1990s, and John Martin said, "Give me a tanker full of iron, I'll give you the next ice age." It's been 30 years. Because it's controversial, it hasn't progressed in 30 years. Whereas regenerating our kelp forests is non-controversial enough to be funded and done locally. We've raised millions of dollars to do the research demonstrating that this works. And now we can go out to our communities and regenerate those kelp forests with the new technologies that we've now developed. And we should be able to regenerate our marine kelp forests offshore and help the climate in a profound way. Now we need to do the research, which is unfunded right now, to actually confirm when you put out X hectares of kelp forest upwind from your community, you can expect this amount of cloud condensation nuclei, which will rebrighten your clouds this much. We need to quantify it. But I look forward to doing that research with partners around the world, demonstrating that this is a great way we can regenerate healthy climate on our planet.
Did you put a kelp forest outside of the San Pedro Harbor?
Yes, we put it upwind, and upwind means the Santa Barbara Channel. And that's exactly where we have a partially funded project. We've raised $300,000 of $600,000 needed for America's first pilot marine permaculture platform. And we meet weekly on that project as well. And if as soon as we raise the funds, we will green light it, and we will deploy America's first pilot marine permaculture platform that will use deep nutrients to keep the kelp growing year round. And that project is half funded so far. Peter?
Yeah, just the origin of the remark that was made about we can't do anything much to improve the situation. That stems from a UK government science advisor, and I'm just trying desperately to remember his name. He's dead now, and that was who made attempts were made to see how you can live by saving as much energy as possible in your day-to-day life and all the things you do. And it only comes to about 20% that you can, if you're desperately trying to save money, being careful with every possible thing, then it'll only save 20%. And that was his point that he made was, well, a lot of what we're trying to do is pointless because the amounts saved are small. But what you've been talking about here is a much larger business that we can do things that are on a scale that's much bigger than that, then it's worth doing. And we forget about sort of having sort of being what kind of ice cream you eat or something. It's something that's much more than that.
Well, that's a great point, Peter. And we are, accepting donations for Rebrighten and also for the Santa Barbara project. I think there is one other thing worth mentioning, and that is every time we get on an airplane, every hour spent in flight is 100 kilos of carbon dioxide for the next 500 years. So 5 hours in flight, that's 500 kilos. That's half a ton of carbon dioxide right there for the next 500 years. So we like to talk it in terms of sumo wrestlers, right? Every hour in flight is a sumo wrestler of carbon dioxide in your lap for on the airplane. And that's true for every passenger seat. And, we personally, I did my share of flying in the last decade. We were probably at 20 tons per year, but we're at 2 tons per year now because we cut our flying 100%. Now I recommend cutting around 90%, right? There's some things you have to go to, but let's get conscious about, jetting for the climate, because in many ways that's not a good thing to do. And we should be doing more meetings like this one, which according to Amory Levins, ship the electrons, leave the heavy nuclei at home. And that's us.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I also go on, Pierre. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a kind of a question that's semi-related to this that I'd like to have Brian and Peter respond to. As the polar ice caps melt, it seems to me that it causes an imbalance in the rotation of the Earth. And that destabilization of the planet itself has some kind of an effect here. And I'm not sure. I just want to know, does that happen? I mean, with the melting of the...
Yeah.
So
Good question, Bill. I read an article on this just recently, and we've already been able to measure the change in the rotation of the Earth. It isn't really destabilizing. I mean, it's measured probably in microseconds or milliseconds in a rotational cycle, but it is measurable, and it is a difference. I probably won't destabilize the Earth's rotation nearly as much as the sea level rise will actually destabilize our food security and our food production. And we're going to have to move to higher ground, which is the title of a book by one of my colleagues who actually also wrote on Hurricane Sandy. I'll get you his name and the titles in the chat. But it does change the Earth's rotation, and it is measurable, but it's not nearly as dangerous as the sea level rise we all need to address, and that Peter's outlined so well. Peter?
Yes, I know. I wrote a paper once with Walter Monk and on sea level rise, and his conclusion was, well, and because he knows all about sea level rise because he wrote the book on it, but it is that there is an impact which if you cause changes in the quantity of the mass of ice in the world, then you do affect the balance of the atmosphere, or the balance of the planet rather, and you will get a change in sea levels, a change in from the change in sea levels, you get a change in the rotation rate of the Earth, and but it's minor. It's not something you should worry about.
I agree. And Peter, I'm glad you mentioned Walter Monk. I had the chance to meet with him in La Jolla at the age of 99 in the last decade. And it was great. You know, he loved marine permaculture. It was really quite an endorsement. And Walter was my father's advisor at Scripps in 1959.
Gosh.
And the year I was born, my dad was getting his PhD there, and his office mate decided to start measuring CO2 on the side of Mauna Loa, and that was Dave Keeling. So it's a very small world, and yet this is the kind of work we have to do, because it's been 60 years since Roger Revelle, who was leading the school there, the research group there, provided the report to then standing president Lyndon Johnson about the effect of greenhouse gases. That was 1965, 60 years ago, and yet we've done next to nothing.
Yes.
We have failed to distinguish ourselves from a burn baby burn planet, which is a direct quote from President Trump of just days ago. He's committed to burn baby burn again. And, those who do not understand history are condemned to repeat it. And that's what we're doing right now.
Yes, but it's us that is condemned to repeat their errors. That's the problem.
Unfortunately, they're dragging us with them.
We have a couple of people who are our regulars, our dear old friends, but we haven't even greeted them yet. Alexei Prokorenko is in hiding. I see that he is here, but his camera's off and his microphone. And Charles Tauber is here too. So while I appeal to Alexei to unmute him or do whatever he's doing, I'll invite Charles to bring us up to date with what I consider his predicament, because he's always having real troubles. But he's the guy with the worst current bad news in our group, because every time he goes on, he's got some awful thing going on. So hello, Charles. How are you, dear?
I think you stated it pretty well. we're still in that problem with the cyber attack,
Mhm.
and our server. So we're trying to do what we can without that. The other side of it is we're getting all kinds of requests for work, among them from a Nigerian group working with the victims of Boko Haram, Boko Haram, and these people were tortured in Nigeria. We're sorry, you're muted, madam.
I've heard that word, Boko Haram, but I can't remember what it is.
It's a terrorist organization in Nigeria related to ISIS.
Oh, is that the group that's captured those schoolgirls?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. And we're also working with some Quakers in Georgia and Russia. They're asking for more education on trauma so that they can go further with all of that. So we've got a lot ahead of us, and without access to our files, this becomes extremely difficult. There's also the problem of finances. We got a small amount, or I should say we are getting a small amount from the King Boudewijn Foundation of Belgium, which will keep us going for another month, but we still are having huge problems in that regard.
I'm wondering whether, excuse me, whether there's any, friendly organization that you're in touch with that supports the idea of your work, who have a technical department that they could lend support from some of their technicians to you to help straighten out this technical thing that has happened to you.
Well, we're working with a guy in Ottawa, who's a very lovely man. A guy called John Hintz. I don't know if anybody knows him. Hintz. And he also has his own projects apparently in Canada, also on asylum seekers and refugees, and of course, the whole situation in Europe now. And it's going to get, and of course, with our dear friend Trump, this is going to get worse and worse and worse. And there's going to be more and more and more work for us. So we may just have to start from scratch and see what we can do. But the problems with regard to asylum seekers and refugees, are pretty awful. There were elections in Croatia recently. The right wing was elected as was predicted. That's happening all over Europe. So we're not in the greatest of condition.
Okay. Alexi, are you with us or not? Because it shows me that both of your microphone and your camera are muted, but you haven't, but you were here. I saw you a while ago. So I don't want to exclude you. You're my favorite person in the world. So just show up. Until then, I'm going to call on Paul Warbos, who looks like he's nodding. Are you awake, Paul? What's going on with you in Virginia?
Am I awake?
Hmm?
Um,
You're considering it. Think it over before you answer.
okay, well then I'll be quiet.
No. What is it you have? What's been going on in your life?
Well, as you know, there have been a few things changing lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the picture I see now is certainly very scary in terms of human survival. And I would say that the kind of solutions and analyses I've been hearing lately reduce my sense of the probability that we will survive it all in the end anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to hear more of that.
Well, we may need to hear more of that. As I was mentioning, I got up early to hear a Pugwash conversation, which involved Jeffrey Hinton, talking about the connection between nuclear weapons and AI, and pleading for people to not turn nuclear weapons over to AI. But anyway, Brian, your hand is up again.
I think Paul's got some very important statements for us, and I'm going to quote Tom Chi when he says, the planet's going to be fine. Within 50 million years, the Earth system recovers completely from events like the Permian mass extinction. And you just get a different set of life forms that are occupying the niches, and the planet's going to be fine. The question is whether there's going to be human civilization on that planet or not. And we need to keep trying. So planet's going to be fine without us. Mother Nature will eject its unruly teenage, tenants if we don't behave. But if we change, if we can count on the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else, as Churchill said, maybe we can redeem ourselves in time before eviction.
In fact, you reminded me of something slightly more positive than what I might have randomly picked. One of the things I was impressed by in the last 3-4 years were the new pictures from NASA taken from gravitational lensing, showing where there is not only dark matter, but pulsing rivers of what look like matter and energy and life, filling the whole cosmos. And our whole galaxy is just one tiny little orange dot in those pictures. And what I tell people is I think our whole community of life in this solar system, this whole community is like an adolescent or baby goldfish in a great big aquarium. Most baby goldfish do not live. And we have to be realistic about that. There are many reasons why. Predators are part of it. And so there are 3 imperatives which evolve amongst baby goldfish, not only in aquariums, but in the ocean. And those are simply to survive. And that means the whole life system has to focus on its collective survival and then grow. And we need to understand and develop benign technologies, but survive while we do it, not kill ourselves off while we do it. And growing means understanding what the hell we're doing, because without that, we'll kill ourselves. And the third part is situational awareness, understanding the rest of what's going on in this aquarium. So there's a thing called the Breakthrough Institute, which Zuckerberg and Milner are working on, and NASA Ames, the former leaders of that place, are working on it, and Harvard. If we can better see what's going on in the rest of this cosmos, that would be one help. That's one of the positive things we can do. But survival is number one. And if we don't have a stronger impulse to survive and tell the truth and understand what the hell we're doing, and not just use it as a way to get funding for our local ward healers who we want to please, which is the way the UN is doing it these days, if we actually focus on reality, and if we use our full intelligence, and if we're tough about it with our thinking, we might survive. Our chances are better than that of most little baby fish. And after all the adult fish are the results of those baby fish who just happen to have more of these inner impulses and act on these impulses. Anyway, so.
That's a great point, Paul. And I love that analogy. And you're reminding me actually of a saying by Baba Ram Dass, who says we were one with everything. I like to think that we're one with all the life on this planet. And
The
in
solar
many ways, and solar system, right? And our transcendence is about ensuring this little goldfish, and that is our collective life and DNA on this planet has a good chance of survival, and being multiplanetary can be part of that. And I think we've got a key opportunity here, and that's how we transcend, is by really helping increase the chances that, humanity, like it or not, is the thermostat for ocean planet Earth at the moment, and we can either, change it in time or not. So let's hope that the people with money get sense, and the people with sense get money in time to do something about it.
Well, here's the question that bothers me most, and I asked Paul to comment on it. I think privately, I asked you to email. And if I'm interested in saving life on planet Earth, or saving anything worthwhile on planet Earth, is it more helpful to try to encourage AI or try to constrain it? And I really don't know what. I mean, I think the most important conflict, social conflict, political conflict of our century is going to be between the people who try to stop AI and rule it out, prevent it, or limit it, and people who oppose it, just don't want it to all go away, and the people who are promoting it. And right now, in the Trump administration, there's already a division between these billionaire Silicon Valley guys who are promoting AI and all kinds of other technology like space, shuttle, rockets and all that stuff. Between those and the MAGA people who are interested in things like not allowing boys to use girls' toilets, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the people who want to go backward, want to go back to a simpler lifestyle where they have to make address fewer challenges, like, Paul having to try to get in the washroom with a cell phone that doesn't work. I mean,
I think it is beautiful that you pick the cell phone as your example of perversion.
Well, I think certainly the AI and the internet, to me, I waste 6 hours, more like 3 hours, literally, a day, and I'm not exaggerating, trying to cope with the, where do I click here to get to the next page that they require me to fill out? And what do I put in that thing? And where do I get the number? And how do I know which account I'm supposed to use? And that kind of thing. That kind of challenge is the most difficult thing for me. And believe me, the people who supported Trump originally were the rural people who don't have. I can pay people to help me, but they aren't very good at it either. Nobody really knows their way around this anymore. But I mean, technology and modern, city slicker elites like us, that we think we know what the rest of the world should be doing. So our population is responsible for setting up all these problems for people who simply want to live simply and, weave baskets and grow potatoes of their own and not have to face these challenges. And so there's within the Trump administration, the MAGA people are already at war with the Silicon Valley billionaires. And this is going to be not just in the Trump administration, but within Peace Magazine and Project Save the World. I invite people to dinner. If they sit at my table, I'm not sure. If I tell them that I sometimes use AI when I'm making the magazine up, and that some of the text is actually generated by AI, and the cover of the magazine was drawn by my AI, I'm not sure that they'll ever speak to me again. On the other hand, they may. And I never know, because there's a real cleavage between people, and they get really upset over this issue. We're having big fights. big fights over it. And this is going to be the way it is. We've got to solve what our attitude toward this. And I
Yeah.
don't know how to solve it.
Meta, there's a great book on this by Sir James Lovelock, and it's called Novacine. He wrote it at the age of 99. And Novacine talks about the unity and the collaboration between humanity and its silicon offspring, and that is AI, in the future in keeping our planet cool. And I recommend that book. It's a short read, and it's quite lively. And it really talks about how there's an opportunity. AI is a tool. It can be used for good or for evil. I'm much less worried about AI than I am about AI in the hands of the few using to subjugate the masses. So in many ways, the open source initiative, including Meta's 405 billion Llama 3.1 model, 400 billion parameter, and the latest ones from China, including R1 and DeepSeek. These are extraordinary models that are completely open source. And the good news is they're in the hands of the many. And when they're in the hands of the many, we can actually have the same tools that the billionaires have, more or less. And we can actually ensure fair governance. And, you know, I think that's what we're going to have to do, is to keep on top of this and make sure that these tools are used for good and not just for evil and, additional plutocracy.
Okay, I've got people that are, if I use AI to make the pictures, they don't get the job of making the pictures for the magazine. If I use articles that are written by AI and they are much better than the people who are submitting things to me, those people who submit things do not get their stuff published. It's that simple. We are in competition with the machine. And I don't know which way it's going to go, because I've got people mad at me because I choose to put a magazine cover on that they didn't draw.
Right. Well, AI as editor is a perfectly fine role. They can be copy editors. They can help draft things. The important thing is that you as editor have reviewed what's been written and have actually made sure it's got the message and it's fact checked and all the rest. We can use tools for good or for evil, where we are, in fact, humanity. And we should think of AI at the moment as primarily a tool that can be used for good or evil by the few or the many.
It doesn't feel that way. It feels Google is a tool. Excel is a tool. Those apps are tools. Zoom is a tool. But AI is not a tool. AI is a creator. AI invents and comes up with ideas already that are smarter than anybody around me, and including me. It's a better editor than I am, and it draws pictures better than any of the pictures I have available, and it will draw a picture to my specifications. If I want a picture of a parade of cement mixer or concrete mixer trucks, it will draw me a victory parade of concrete mixer trucks.
Right, but here's the distinction.
Tool is if my wife is using it.
What?
Yeah.
A more impressive tool than what you're talking about is what happens when my wife takes charge of these LLMs. That's something I haven't discussed, because it's a whole other science fiction world you wouldn't even believe in if you saw it.
The problem I'm finding is that it's putting a lot of information out there that's not correct. That people are saying they have not done their due diligence, they have not done the studies, and AI doesn't know that, and it's also doing it in the context is wrong. So I think it's
Carolyn,
scary.
I don't agree with you. I use GPT-4 or Gemini at least 10 times a day. I ask it everything.
Okay.
And almost every time it's perfect. The exception is when you ask it for a citation to published journals that it doesn't have access to. It can make up citations that are, but I use it so often that I swear to God, I know it is very accurate 95% of the time.
Okay, I have to disagree with you because there are lots of articles that I've written on and on cat behavior and on wild cat behavior. And I see my stuff being used out of context all the time. And it gives it whole different meanings. That's not what it was originally done. I mean, used for. That's not how I wrote things. So no, I have to say I think it can be very dangerous. I think it's a tool. I think it's a double-edged sword type of tool. There is definitely some good uses to it, but I do think that people need to go in there and really check it, because I'm seeing it with my own stuff that I have written being used out of context.
On cat behavior, please forgive me if I break in, but pro bono, if you're really interested in the higher intelligence of cats, there is a new special issue coming out in Systems Neuroscience. So if you look up Systems Neuroscience, there's a Canadian professor named Wack, W-A-C-K, who is the editor of a new special issue that is specifically looking for articles to understand the higher intelligence of cats. So if you have something to say, please submit something to our special issue.
I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say.
Then please tell the world, get it out there. This is important.
That's good. So I want to I agree with what Marilyn's saying, and then furthermore comment that Meta, you're using AI for all sorts of things, but the point is you're asking the questions and you're reviewing and editing the answers, and that is a key role, because you are in fact the seed that is guiding this tool to do what it's going to do. And the fact is that it's your mind that's asking the right questions and getting the right answers and filtering that, and that is an essential and pivotal role that makes this AI still a tool, even if it's a higher level tool.
Well, it saves me at least an hour a day right now, and it's going to be saving me more.
But I should say, these LLMs are mostly just tools. There's a lot more to be said about them.
Right.
But what really scares me about this policy situation, what scares me most about the survival of humans, is there are two classes of people making decisions. There are people in the civilian sector very much entertained by LLMs, and they are a serious issue in the civilian sector. And then there are military people you don't see, especially in China, US, Iran, and Israel. And if you go to these places, they are happy that the public believes they don't exist. Because if the public believes they don't exist, they can get away with things you don't begin to imagine. And I know, because I've seen it firsthand, the dangers of really higher level, out of control tools, which have their own utility functions, which don't give a damn about the fact you want to use them as a tool. You say, I'm using you as a tool, and inside themselves, they'll laugh as they manipulate you to achieve their utility functions. And those are all over the map, and they're not all safe.
Yeah, Paul is entirely correct. You know, we've got the fox guarding the hen house here, and that is the government claims to be protecting us from large language models. At the same time, the other hand of that government is creating autonomous lethal killing machines in DARPA and in China and elsewhere. And these machines are going to have the ability to kill humans in the battlefield initially, but eventually everywhere.
Now. They are doing it now.
They are doing it now. And these lethal killing machines, there's actually an organization that I joined that's actually working to oppose these lethal killing machines. But that is the dark side of AI that, you know, they don't want anybody to know about.
And
serious problem.
Ignorance is something to be afraid of.
I agree.
If we don't know what's going on, oh boy.
Definitely.
Okay. But do you agree with me that there is going to be a conflict between people who want to use high-tech solutions and people who want to do things like send rockets to outer space and then charge people to ride on them, that sort of thing, and use all of these, you know, everything. I can't use a cell phone. I don't have one anymore. I gave it away because I can't use it. It's just too complicated for me. And so I understand people who wanted a simple lifestyle, who feel threatened and upset because they can't live in this world on the terms that are now being specified and required of us. We have to file our taxes. We have to send out forms. We have to do our banking, and we can't do it. And we can't get help. And so I understand the people who want to go into buying a place in New Zealand and trying to live off the land. But I'm not going to do it that way. But because I somehow I have to believe that the challenge is to learn how to handle these technological things and make them obedient to us, and make them redesign the interface on these stupid, websites, so that we can find our way through them. I understand that Norway has actually passed laws saying things like, every time you've signed up for something, they have to remind you every 6 months that you've subscribed, so you don't keep paying for the rest of your life and without knowing it. Or all of these other forms that they fill out, they have to make them something that a normal human being can figure out how to use. That's what we need. That's
There's
part
some
of it.
good, yeah,
But
there's some good news on this.
within the Trump administration already, the billionaires are at war with MAGA, and this is only the first round of what's going to happen further. Charles, did you put your hand up?
Yes, I did. I want to take this even a step further back and say that we have to change our attitude toward humanity. Because if I see what is going on, for example, here, or at the moment in Congo, or in Ukraine, and I could name quite a number of other places, that there is a simple, quote unquote simple, not simple at all, human quality that we simply do not care about one another. And that has to change. That we have to realize that other people are out there who are human beings, whatever our politics, whatever our desires for money, because people are getting killed, injured, etc., and the earth is being destroyed because people simply don't care about one another. I think I've said this here a number of times. One of the statements that I get fairly frequently when I deal with clients is that people say to me, "You're the first person who has actually listened to me. You're the first person who has actually shown some respect for me." And until we change that basic point, nothing's going to happen. As much as we play with AI, as much as we play with technical stuff, whatever. All right. I've raved. I've done my rave for the evening.
I want to go back to something that Meta said a little while ago about using AI to produce articles and so forth like that. When AI was, well, this is about 6 months ago. Okay, I decided I would try something, and I took one of my stories and I put it through, Perplexity, I think it was. And I sent it off to my professional editor just to see what he would say. And he came back and he said, "Bill, this is pretty damn good, except your voice is not there anymore."
Hmm.
And he said, if you're going to use AI, you'd better go through it and put your voice back in it. That's all I have to say.
It's interesting. What I do now, after every show, which we put now on Substack, I also put it through Otter and get a transcript, which is usually very bad. The transcripts are, you can waste as much time correcting them as if you'd type the whole thing yourself. But anyway, I do a little bit of cleaning up. And then I send it to both AI, that is to GPT-4, and to Gemini. And I say, write me a 1,000 word essay about the transcript of this show. And they each do so. And sometimes it's a little more than 1,000 words. And I take both of them. I would tell them also, make it a friendly, accessible thing that a high school person, educated person could read. If possible, make it kind of catchy and friendly, rather than don't make it bureaucratic or academic. So they each produce their best effort, and then I print them both. I mean, I put them both on MS Word and look at them side by side, and I see there are pieces in both of them that look good. So I put them together, and then I realize, oh no, they left out the most important thing. It was or this or that. They left out this key point. So I'll say to one of them, write me another couple of paragraphs about this thing that you didn't cover. So they do that, and I look at it. Well, that's pretty good. No, I need to fix it. So I put them all together, and then I edit it. And I use, I have to fix it because there are always little things that need improvement. So the output, the final product is a 1,000 word essay, which is partly Meta Spencer, but mostly either GPT-4 and or Gemini. And then I post it on Substack. And this Substack article is an overview of the 1 hour long show. Most people don't have time to spend an hour watching the show. So, but they would like to read a little bit about what went on. And 1,000 words is just about right enough. So they have this thing and people are appreciating it, having these, well, it's not a synopsis so much, but an essay about the show. It works. It's very, very worth doing. People appreciate it. But it's half me and half machine. And look at it. Tell me whether you think it's bad. I think they're good. Marilyn.
That's exactly how it should be used. You're using it as a tool and you're going through there and you're editing and you're putting your voice in and you're making sure it's accurate. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people do that. They just put it through AI and that's that. But you are doing the right, you're using the tool the correct way, in my opinion.
Well, yes, but there are a few that I put in almost word for word. I don't see anything I need to fix. That occasionally.
Right, but you check it. Yes, but you check it. That's the difference. You look at it, you check it before you publish it, before it's made public. And that's what the difference is, I think.
Tell my writer friends that they're not going to get a job writing for Peacemaker. There's a woman who's wrote an article for us a time back, several months ago, and she wants to do another one. And she wrote to me and said, can I have an assignment to write another article for the magazine? I'm going to tell her no. That's not that good.
You might propose something different, and that is learn how to use AI. It's $10 a month to use a premium system, and there are several free ones out there. And improve your articles with AI, review them, and send them to me. And that is how you can get your thing published. So instead of saying no, just say change.
All right, that's a good solution. Maybe I'll do that. Thank you. Okay, we're getting toward the end. I'm sure that I've hijacked the conversation, but I'm sorry. Some of these issues get me worried, and the one about the prospect of class war, not between upper class, middle class, and the poor, but between rural peasants who want to go back to the olden days and Silicon Valley billionaires and other us urban elites who make trouble for other people by writing code that other people have to adhere to. That, I think, is going to be the drama of the century. Only it'll all be over before the century's over. It'll be over by the middle of the century. One side will have won. Anyway.
I've got along those lines, Meta, I've got to share with you a TED Talk that was done by Nick Hanauer. And ironically, it was 10 years ago, but his title is Beware, Fellow Plutocrats, the Pitchforks Are Coming. And it's an excellent TED Talk. Check it out on YouTube. Nick Hanauer, just look up pitchforks. And it's like, he's basically saying, look, either there's dramatic social reform where we rebuild the middle class, or the pitchforks are coming out and it's not going to be pretty. And that was 10 years ago.
It's MAGA. It's not just the pitchfork people, it's MAGA. And they, I guess those are the guys with the pitchforks, but it's,
The MAGA guys are outclassed, and they're beginning to discover now, you read what Bannon is writing, they are being slowly crushed. They have the choice between people like Clyburn in the House, who is the one who owned Alicia Harris, and people, the billionaires. And you're either a billionaire or you're with a certain political movement, and the regular people, most of the people in the United States are feeling more and more apprehensive about being crushed between forces they really cannot limit or control.
Right. Okay. Well, Brian has just left us. He had his own solution, and we're going to hear again somebody about the Chambers of Compassion, I imagine, one of these days, next time. Okay, our time's up, friends. Even though we started late, I'm going to end on time. And thank you all for what you're my community now, and you do good things for my soul. Don't know whether you can save the world or not, but you're doing what you can for me. Thank you. Okay, see you next time. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye.